And
okay, you know what? Maybe I can bring this up on. Are we live?
Oh, Joe Dogs.
Oh, here we go.
going to play live. And turn your volume down on other
Yeah, I got it.
applications.
I'm a what do you call it? Oh, you're sharing the screen? Why am I seeing the screen?
I'm going, that's delayed.
Be here tonight.
That's delayed. So, yeah, we're live on now, but,
Take this one.
Oh, I see. It's 40-second delay.
yeah.
The silver one, Joe. The other one.
Well, where's the music?
I don't know.
They were taking a while to start. There we go.
Oh. While you're at it, you can take the extra R out. Arturo's a sweetheart.
Yeah. The club looked like there were a lot of people hanging out, man. Where's the guitar?
Underneath it's Ron Eshtay.
Oh.
It was underneath that overhead. By the yeah, we were leap years away from, or light years ahead of everyone else when it came to all the streaming video and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
of course, this isn't an HD. This is before that even came around.
Right.
Now Campus Jacks is doing it so well. I mean, it's incredible.
Ron Eshtay and Joey DeFrancesco. And who's on drums?
Is that? I think it's Byron Wookie Landham. Byron Landham is his main drummer for many years. No bass player needed with Joey DeFrancesco.
No.
That's his feet.
Why not take all of me? Can't you see I ain't no good without you? Take my lips, I want to lose them. Take my arms, I'll not refuse them. Your goodbye left me with eyes that cry. How can I go on, baby, without you? You took the part that was my heart. Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not take all of me?
That is great.
That's great, man. Yeah,
Let's welcome to the stage.
that's really great. Far out. That was fun. Okay, stop share.
There we
Ah,
go.
bigger than life. The famous, the wonderful. Da, da, da. Okay, I'm just getting back so I can see us. And
I can see you.
uh-oh. Wonderful. Da, da, da. Uh-oh. Let's see. Yeah.
Take your time. I got 2 hours.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Everybody, this is my guest, Terrence Love. And Terrence and I have been friends a really long time.
Mhm.
And yeah, Terrence created the jazz club Steamers, which was one of Los Angeles's longest jazz clubs and most popular. It was in Orange County, which is why I ended up not coming so much at the end. It was that was when the traffic just got so ridiculous going to Orange County. But anyway, it was just a great club, real cool hang, nice kind of for a small club, it was kind of well set up. The stage was in the back corner, like literally in the corner, and then there was seating around that, and then seating straight back to the door, and there was a bar on the left, and but that wasn't really a bar, right? That was more of a
That was
uh,
a bar. It
it
was a
was
bar.
people
It was a
sat there.
bar slash kitchen slash lounge for the servers. Everything was multiple purpose there. Yeah. No.
That was a cool club.
Anyway, thank you, Cathy, for inviting me, and I'm happy to share whatever needs to be shared. And I got a mouthful, but
Okay, well, but first,
yes.
actually, I want to ask you. I want
Mhm.
to ask you some things,
Sure.
um, like, like, where did you actually? You have kind of a California accent. Did you actually grow up in California?
Well, no. I was born in Chicago, and and lived there for we moved up to Minneapolis for a while, then came back down, but mostly Chicago for about 10 years, and then moved to Southern California in 1963, and um, uh, it was I was just a wee child then, and came here, and my father was an electrical engineer, and did he wasn't rich or anything like that, but he had a good job, well educated and all that, and came out and lived in a place called Hacienda Heights, which is off the 60 over there by the San Gabriel Valley. And what the hell was the question you asked? Where did I come from? Oh yeah.
Yeah, basically, I just wanted to know how you came up and what happened. What were you doing when you were? What were you interested in high school? Were you interested in jazz?
I was, like I said, I have a mouthful. I was in I played in the band. I'm a sax player, flute player,
Now, you
and
know what? I did not know that.
there you go. There
See?
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a sax player and a flute player, and went through all from the time I got there. There was a very famous uh, sax sax. What do you call it? Repairman in North Hollywood called Saul Bettman, Betnun, and he till he died a few years back was the place that all pros brought their horns to, had them fixed and all that stuff. And at that time when I took a
Excuse me. Sorry, was that in Studio City? Like
yeah
kind
Studio
of
City,
close to the baked potato?
yeah Bettnun, yep,
I've been there,
yep.
definitely. I went there because used to date sax players.
Yeah.
Okay.
Singer,
I
sax
know
player,
I like you.
So anyway, what ended up happening is I was in fourth grade and I took one of these tests where they basically play a lower tone and a higher tone. Is it higher or is it lower? That kind of stuff. And I scored a very no mistakes or whatever. So of course they say you're a musician. You're going to be a musician. You're big enough. You should play sax or tuba. And I said I'll play the saxophone, and that's what it was like. So we found this old silver Busher alto and from Saul Benton, and I don't even remember what it cost, or it was a buffet, I can't remember. And I played that. I went all through school, and then high school I was in the marching band. I was in what we used to call the stage band, which is big band now, or jazz band. My band director was an incredible jazz trombonist who played in the service and all that stuff. And one of the most fantastic mentoring influences in my life when it came to music. And I played. I was kind of an oddball in school because when I grew up, when I started high school, it was everything's clean cut. You couldn't even have long hair. And then in my junior year, they allowed us to grow our hair. So I had long hair. I was wearing a band uniform. I was also a pothead, and I was selling weed to the football players and dating the cheerleaders. But I was a band nerd, So, but
Wow.
I was influenced heavily when it came to music from my parents. My father was not a real jazz head, but back then we had a big Magnavox one of those console stereos, and you know, it was like a piece of furniture. And my father, being an electrical engineer, he wired it up with headphones, which were monaural. They weren't stereo back with those old, you know, Radio Shack type headsets that like you would see a helicopter pilot wear or whatever back in the day, and real hard plastic like that, telephone plastic, that hard stuff. And I would just sit there and listen. And he had, you know, all the show, every single, you know, thing, The King and I, Annie, you know, Annie Get Your Gun, Oklahoma, all of this, you know, I grew up on that stuff. Yet he had an assortment of jazz stuff. Like, you know, he'd have one Dexter Gordon album, Go, or he had Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, or he had, you know, one he was into Al Hurt, so I got into Dixieland stuff really early.
Uh-huh.
And you know, my father was also heavily into classical music, so I was, you know, and that was what it was for me. I was the type of kid that I never really listened to music as a background thing. It was always foreground. I was in just totally blown away by what could go on. You know, my father would read, you know, we were four kids, two parents, all pretty above average intelligence. And our days were spent listening to classical music, playing Scrabble and things like that. And we were into sports too and all that. But, you know, my parents would talk to me about things like Haydn and Ravel and Mozart and talk to me. And I was just fascinated how, you know, I'm playing this instrument, this brass instrument, and these people were playing these things 300 years before and coming up with these incredible compositions. And it just didn't seem to you know, what happened in that time. And of course I wasn't aware or cognizant of how technology and revolution, you know, the industrial revolution changed so much of the stuff. So yeah, I was fascinated by it. And I could go on, or if you have another question, I mean, I can give you a little bit more about the genesis of my.
Well, okay, so that was you were living at home.
I
Did
was
you
living
go
at
to
home
did you go
at
to
10
college?
years old for the most part. Yeah,
Okay, so did you go to college and
many times. Yes, yes. As I told you, I came and went probably 8 times.
Oh
Different,
wow. Yeah.
yeah, different junior colleges and colleges, and you know, what ended up happening is getting in and playing the jazz and all that, and I started doing like rock and roll in bands and stuff after. So I was in bands, going to college, selling pot, doing all sorts of things, and I just, you know, I wasn't there, man. I wasn't there. I was there in spirit and in heart, but
Yeah.
I just, you know, I couldn't do it. Then I, you know, started doing all sorts of things and doing business, you know, making money.
So let's see. So there's this period of time in between that and steamers. So generally speaking, what happened in between there?
Drugs, alcohol.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but I've been sober 32 years.
No, I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a sober alcoholic. And so, you know, the course of my life just, you know, went on and went on and went on. And as others were starting to flourish, and friends and family, you know, and people started to drop out of my life because I was creating, you know, I was a mess. To be quite honest with you, I felt I was a blessed person with lots of talent, but I was a mess because I couldn't control it. I was under the grip of an awful disease, a disease that kills a lot of people, and continues to this day. And essentially, what ended up happening was, you know, I just went down that path, and that path, I was beaten into a state of reasonableness. I was just, I could no longer, as much as I tried to continue to do it like other people and to manage it and control it, it just took it all out of me. And, you know, it wasn't easy, and it wasn't of my doing, how I got here, how I somehow survived it and woke up one day and never took a drink or a drug since that May 23rd, 1988. I don't know, but for the grace of God, that's what ended up happening. So fast forward, if you want to go through all of the garbage part of it, that's what happened. And then I ended up near the end of my drinking days, I was in restaurant management. I had gone from playing in bars to drinking in bars to managing bars and restaurants and all that stuff. So I had all of this, I did DJing, I did all sorts of things involved in music, yet the drink was the most important thing. So what ended up happening is when I finally got sober, I ended up starting working off for $4.25 an hour, sweeping sawdust in a lumber mill.
Wow.
And that was the 4 years before steamers came. And
Really? Yeah.
what I did is I just got my stuff together, saved some money, borrowed some money, did what it took. And, the story of steamers came, and I'll make this brief. Two guys that I went to high school with, I was now this new person, and they wanted to start a band again, two guitar players and one guy played bass. So, they wanted me on sax. So we started meeting in the garage and playing these things. Next thing you know, they're going, hey, I'm into jazz, you into jazz, la-da-da-da-da. Let's do this. So basically what ended up happening is one of the guys was a business guy. The other guy was a construction guy. And so they said, well, Terrence, you've got all the management skills of the restaurant, the hospitality, the sound, and all that stuff. So Rocky, you've got all this other experience, and John, you're a builder. You can build the place. So that's what we did. And needless to say, if you've not run a restaurant or a club or anything like that, it requires twice as much money as you ever think you need to spend, and 4 times as much time as you need to spend. In addition to the vision, the insight, the ability to having the personality to meet people and work with people, and one guy, the builder, was gone within 3 months. He thought he built it. He didn't need to have anything to do with running it. He just wanted to collect quarterly checks, and understandable, he didn't know. So he was bought out immediately. And then the other guy just kind of lost interest, wanted to move away and all that stuff. So he was bought out within a year. So from that point on, it was my deal. And what it was is, for the first year and a half or 2 years, I think we had just beer and wine. And it wasn't until after that I got the liquor license. And that's kind of what got me into steamers. And then what had gone from a place being a college hang, which was, because it's by Fullerton College, which has a huge jazz department, Cal State Fullerton, there's 60,000 students within 3 miles of of the club. That's what they wanted to focus it on. And I said, no, I want to make it into this big jazz club. And that was my thing. And there was a point there when I was on the stage and bartending and serving dinners and stuff like that. That's the way it used to be. That's probably why you never knew I played the sax and stuff.
So how long was Steamers there? 25 years, 30 years?
22 and a half years or so. Well, it was, I signed the lease 23 years and 3 months after I closed it. Yeah, and sold it, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And live jazz 7 nights a week. So I used to do big Saturday high school bands in the day. I did Dixie bands on Sundays, and other high school bands. So something like over 9,000 concerts I presented there. Yeah, just a few.
God, well, you had Joey DiFrancesco and Arturo Sandoval and Joe Pesci.
Yeah,
Not bad, and obviously many local people. Cathy Segal-Garcia played there a bunch.
Cathy Segal-Garcia, of course. But I mean, if you want to talk about the big names,
Yeah.
Buddy DeFranco, Buddy Collette, Poncho Sanchez, Diana Krall, Tierney Sutton, Karen Allison, Nancy King, Chuchito Valdez, Bill Henderson, Ernie Andrews, just a tremendous amount of and I hope you don't mind if I just kind of improvise it while we're
No,
going.
I don't mind at
I
all.
was thinking of a story when you thought that, because I thought before maybe she'll ask me who's been there, and then maybe she'll ask who was the one regret I had, and the one regret that I did not bring in was Anita O'Day. And at the time, I forgot what his name is, the bass player that was working with her. She was doing a
Was it John? Was it the guy that really?
Italian guy. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Was it John or
Joe?
J-
Joe? Why can't I remember it? Please,
yeah,
if you're listening, I'm sorry.
I know who you mean.
Well, Jim DiGiulio.
Yes.
Jim DiGiulio. There we go.
Right.
Got it, Jim. Got it, Jim. He was bringing this thing around, and she was, well past her
prime.
and
Yeah.
she was doing a presentation with a video screen in the back, and passed on. And I'm a huge Anita O'Day fan, and I passed on it because prior to that was when I had brought in Buddy Collette, and this was when he was frail, and the house was packed, and he played, and it was very memorable. But I could tell that it was if he was on the other side, he would have wished it would have been better. I would the way I looked at it, and I thought, there was a bittersweet moment. The people that were there were enjoying it because they got an opportunity to see this guy near his death, and a legend, and but it was also painful. So I kind of considered that. One of my all-time mistakes was that I said, I think I'll pass on this. And of course, part of it may have been that I thought people would know and not buy tickets, or I don't know what it was. There's so many things that have gone on there. I don't know all the decisions I made and why I made those, but it was a regret, and because to this day I wish I could have. I never saw her live. I didn't see it. Yeah, I just saw the.
I actually saw her in that period with Jim, and Jack LeCompte was playing.
Oh yeah.
And I don't remember who was on piano, but anyway, it was good. It was a good setup that they had the screen behind her, because she was singing a song and she forgot what song she was singing. And which happens to all of us, but usually when we're scatting.
Yeah.
And so
you start scatting when you can't remember the song.
Right, like Ella. But but the screen was good, and it was kind of almost bittersweet watching, because here's this icon, and she's having a good time on the stage, but she's not quite up to par. And but I can understand why you might have passed, actually, because it's like there's something bittersweet about it. Yeah.
Well, and also at the time, I'll have to admit that I knew Jim from playing in bands there quite often, but I was in a unique position as a club owner and booker.
Yeah.
One of the things, back to the beginning, one of the things that I wanted to do at Steamers always was I didn't have a big full-blown kitchen and all that stuff. It was basically a glorified sandwich table and all that stuff. I put the money in the sound the stage, the piano, the presentation. Every time an artist would come up, I would introduce them, and I'd introduce all the players coming up and bringing them down. I wanted them to be presented in the best possible way. And I just thought that, so I was the booker also. So I rarely dealt with agents. I mean, some agents, Marianne Topper with Diana Krall, some William Morris sometimes would contact me. But most of the people, I had this close relationship with the people, with the musicians, and still do to this day. So Jim, okay. Sorry, that was so Jim was not pushing her, but he was selling the thing to me.
Yeah.
And I had already had there had been a little rumor about what was going on with it, what it was. So I felt a little pressure from it in that respect. So, and one of the things I learned, especially now that I'm with at Campus Jacks, and we'll talk about that later, is that, there's a lot of pressure on a club and on an owner to do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous decision to make. You have a decision to put on something. And one of the things I never did at Steamers, I never did the door. I always did a flat rate, because I don't care. I don't want that musician looking at the door going, how many people are here, counting them, or how many people aren't here. I say, this is what it is. That's what it is. You can go and you can relax on the stage and know you're going to get paid, and that's it. And I didn't want to have to worry about it. And as a decision of that, I could book something, pay a certain amount of money, and then something could happen tragic, 9/11 or whatever, and you're still obligated to pay that band.
Yeah.
And so every decision has to be weighed, so that was just one that I did and I regret.
Yeah. Michael Diak. Hi, Michael. He wants to know, did Helen Keane ever approach you about bringing in Bill Evans?
No. Unfortunately, no, but I would have loved to done that. I would have loved to have done that.
Did you know that I curated a jazz series that ended about 3 years ago downtown near the Disney Hall?
No.
Yeah, it was like 2.5
Maybe
years.
I did.
It was
Go ahead.
called Bar Fedora, and I had the perfect situation. It was inside a really nice vegan restaurant right behind Disney Hall, and the room is so beautiful. It's like a little New York club. It has a stage, sound, seats about 60 people comfortably. Had vegan food and stuff. Anyway, it was really fun, and I just had the easiest deal in the world. I didn't have to pay them. We of course served food from them, and so the waitresses were part of it, and then I had to pay the sound people, and it was a door gig because it was just me,
right?
And but it was it was great. I learned lessons, not like your lessons really, because you took the whole enchilada, but it was great, and I just so many evenings, I was just so blown away with what was going on. It was just so beautiful to see, and the people loved it so much. They were so close to the music, and it was just such a great experience.
When you were describing Steamers, in speaking of what you're just saying there, it kind of reminded me of, the way the layout you're talking about, how the stage was in the corner, and the diagonal to the right corner in the back, and there was a long row straight there. The bar was along there, and then there was a little area around surrounding it, and then right, which would be stage right, there was a door going into the back where the bathrooms were and all that, right behind the piano. And my office was in the back there. I used to come up, I'd introduce a band, I'd go get off the stage, and then I would come out there and kind of stand at that door with the band on the left of me going, and I had a perfect angular view of the vocalist, whoever, or the front man right there,
Mhm.
and that row of seats and all the people there. And just, I had this vision of almost every person in the place. And I used to sit there and go, I created this thing. It truly was surreal and mind blowing, because I was just thinking, oh my God, this is so important to me. It's so important to these people, and it's so important to these musicians, and this 3 hours of expression going on the stage with, and it was, I mean, that's like asking a musician, what does music feel like to you? That's what it was like for me. It was like I'd have chills looking at that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I described how near at the very, very end, I'd bring the band in, and I was so, like, not over it, but just so detached because of how strained. My father was very ill. I'll talk about that later. One of the reasons why I got out of Steamers was, but I wasn't present. And meanwhile, all that same stuff was going on. It's just that I wasn't the participant anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why, and by the way, I have quite a lot of this taped and video, recordings of that. someday I'll listen to it all, or share it all. I don't know. But I know, the thing is I realize the importance of the presentation, and and jazz. It's just never repeated. That solo isn't coming back. It's not coming back unless it's recorded. It's just not coming back.
So there's so many great lessons, in what we do. I mean, there's lessons in life, of course, everywhere, but we're so lucky, we're so fortunate to have music, and jazz especially, because it is so desired to be in the moment,
Right.
We're really lucky. It's great. Um, yeah, my friend Sandy, who lives in Santa Barbara, saw
Yeah.
Alan Broadbent and the Estrada Brothers at Steamers.
Oh my God, Alan! I love Alan. Can
Oh,
I see that? I'm trying to see. Am I allowed to see the? Okay.
yeah.
Tony's watching. John Ferraro. Oh, cool.
Ed
Josh Nelson. Hey, how you doing? Hi,
yeah.
Mary. Hi, Mary. Oh, wow, how cool. Gina Saputo, Tim Ellis. Oh my God, this is great. John McClure, Pat Kelly, Cathy Segal. Who's that? I have so many, I know you got a list of questions, but I was thinking, imagine being going up and getting an award, and I did get the Terry Merrill Award, Founders Award from the LA Jazz Society.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I got that. I forgot what year that was, 2013 or 12. I don't remember. But, I was thinking about who the heck, like getting an academy, who do you thank?
Yeah. It's kind of a broad thanking, right? Like,
oh my God.
All the musicians who played, they're all the audience who came.
I must have had 1,000 spiritual awakenings at that club. Just, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before. It is the greatest. My favorite jazz vocalist, my favorite sax player, wait a second. It's incredible. It was, that's how moving the music is. And of course, for me, I'm my own worst critic. I'm also, people will tell me how important it was. People will show me how important it was. And now that I'm with Campus Jacks and doing that kind of stuff, and
Tony Guerrero.
And Tony, yeah.
He grew up at your club. Yeah,
that's right. And Tony and I are like this now. It's really great. I love the man. He's a talent in and out. in
Yeah.
and out in every way, every shape of the word. And but I people will tell me what I did, and then but I don't really realize it. And myself, Shelley Berg got married at my club.
Wow.
Married, actually married, the ceremony and all that stuff. I've had probably 30 proposals done. Like, hey, will you have Barbara Morrison bring my fiance up on the stage, and I'm going to ask her right there. It's crazy stuff, you know. But that just tells me that the environment or the music or the energy in the room just was attractive to people.
That's really nice. Oh, Debbie Goodis. Hi, Deb. She's Steve
Oh
Goodis's
yeah,
wife. Um, so, anyway, also speaking of how you benefited people, so my friend Sandy, again from Santa Barbara, she said, the memory I have of those 2 nights has lasted 22 years.
aw, isn't that great?
Yeah.
Wow. She also likes Irene Krall. Yeah, Alan Broad. Yeah, man.
Well, um, yeah. So, let's just talk about Campus Jacks for a minute, huh?
Sure.
Yeah, which you guys had me on Sunday, which was really nice of you.
Yeah.
And I followed the Take Six guy, which was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
man, thank you for.
Alvin Chia. Yeah, he's what
Yeah,
a beautiful
he's
man.
really
Well,
wonderful.
I guess I'll lead into Campus Jacks with a story about leaving. Well, no, I won't go into that. We'll talk about that later. The leaving Steamers, but
Yeah.
Steamers ends. We sell it. My father is very ill with Parkinson's. He's 88 years old. The opportunity came, back to before when I was drinking. My mother died when I was young and while I was drinking, and she had terminal cancer, and she died in 86. So I was full blown into my active alcoholism at that time, and I really was not there as a son. I wasn't. I mean, I was there. I moved home under the guise that I was going to help my father, but the truth of the matter is that I was nearly homeless at that time, and so when my father was getting ill, I made a decision that as much as I could milk this thing or perpetuate Steamers any further. I knew in my heart that I had lost the gas for it at that time and that he was dying, and I was spending a whole great deal of time trying to help him and move him from memory care to assisted living and all that stuff. So anyway, he passes, and for the 2 years before he passed, after I sold Steamers, I didn't see any jazz. I didn't go out. I didn't listen to K jazz. I didn't listen to jazz on my radio, and nothing against it. It just wasn't there. I had had enough. I was doing other things, listening to classical music and stuff like that. Not that I never listened to it, but for the most part, it was not something that I wanted to relive, not something that I was still yearning to get back to. I had changed my life from staying up all night. I have a very dear friend of mine that used to be a customer of mine, a musician friend, really nice man who had a business here in Placentia. He knew that. Wait a second. Tony, you're not older than that. Tony's the baby. Anyway, my friend Terry was a customer of mine, and he knew I've always been like a technical guy. I used to do computers way before Windows and all that stuff. My brother's a programmer and all that stuff, and has a successful business in tax computation stuff. And so he needed an IT guy. So I started working for him part-time to start out, and it turned out to be more. So I was kind of involved in that, and I wasn't really going out. And then what happened is my father passed on December 21st of 2017. And which is what, 2.5 years ago. And my first entry back to jazz was I heard Gina Saputo was playing at this place called Cook's Chapel in Anaheim, and it's at the Anaheim Packing Center or district or whatever they call it. So I thought, well, I'm just going to go out. I hadn't seen Gina in a while, and so I went and saw Gina. And while I was there at the bar that was there, two of my ex-bartenders were working there. And next thing you know, where are you going to? You're going to see Gina? Boom, there's like 30, 40 people, Steamers people at the thing watching her. And they're all, oh, you got to talk to this guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. Make sure you help him. You should be booking this and, la-di-da. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do here? And I thought, well, you know what? I'd be happy to talk. So I went up to the guy, said, if you need any help, with connections or whatever, I'd be happy. I like what you're doing here. It's great. You're bringing Gina in and all that. And I don't know if he poo-pooed the idea or he just, trust me, as a club owner and a booker, I don't want somebody else's opinion. I may tend to want it, but I think I know what's best. I thought I knew what was best for my audience. So, I just kind of passed, and then I got involved with Vicky Pedrini and the Jazz Foundation, and did a couple of different fundraisers as an MC, and I also did the Orange County Jazz and Wine thing. It was up at this restaurant. We've done 3 or 4 of them, where another kind of a fundraising thing that I got involved doing MC work for them. And so then the last one was with the foundation with is that the same foundation you're a part of?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Vicky, was at
Yeah.
Campus Jacks that I did. Okay. And I went there at Campus Jacks and I thought, wow, this used to be Hoagie Barmichael's. This was a rock and roll dive before, and they cleaned it up, and it's got a beautiful sound stage and all that. And I was thinking, wow, this is a nice room. No piano, but it's a nice room. And so I'm up there doing it, and a lot of people were there. And I went up to Jack, the owner, Jack Jasper, who's now a good friend of mine, and said, hey, if you need any help, I'd be happy to help you. He's like, and I could kind of tell, his response was, sure, whatever, I got it handled, it just, and I probably would have done the same thing. Like if somebody walked into my place and said, hey, you want me to go and make some shrimp in the back for you? I said, well, look. And then after I announced and got up on stage and announced the band and some things that are going on, and that people came and flocked to me after I got off there, he comes up, and I think he noticed that he didn't know who I was probably. So anyway, he said, hey, by the way, and he hands me a sheet. So-and-so's playing, Tony's playing here. I got this, would you mind announcing it on the next thing? So I went up and I announced it. And, I thought, wow, this is great. If you ever need anything. And then the next, I don't know what happened, but the next time that I was involved there, Jack's partner, Tim Ellis, who Tim now.
Yeah.
Tim Ellis is Jack is the restaurant side, the guy that owned the Jack Shrimp in Newport Beach for 26 years. And that's the main guy there. But Tim is a very active partner, and his whole thing is a vision for excellence in performance and promoting this and production and all sorts of things. He's a very talented guy. He's a conductor. He has all sorts of energy, endless energy. And he said, I got big ideas for you, big ideas. And then so basically they approached me after a while, and I didn't know what the heck I didn't know. I'm not there to sell myself, but they basically said, we want to do a night, Steamers Jazz at Campus Jacks, once a month, and we want you to host it. We want to give you the the artistic thing and this and that and whatever. And basically what happened was I did a few Thursdays once a month. It was extremely popular. Then they asked me, hey, you want to do it with Tony? I said, well, that's Tony's gig. He's been doing this for a long time. And Tony asked me if I'd help, because he had his big band coming, he had never done that with a big band and selling the tickets. So, I said, sure. And it turned out well. And then, so we've been doing this, it went from once a month, turned into twice a week, and bringing in a lot of good, great people, local people, and people like, Kate Flannery, Jane Lynch, and some other great big names that are coming there. And we just had the ball was rolling. All my Steamers fans were coming there. It started to do really well. And then COVID hit,
Yeah.
And what's happened since. And then we turned this into a virtual, and I'll talk about that at some point later in the interview if you want, the virtual thing that's happened now, and then now we're reopening, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that was my 45-second answer, by the way.
Not bad, Terrence. I keep remembering the picture I sent you a month or so ago of you and Vicky and me and Barbara Brighton, and
oh my God,
there was somebody else. It was such a cute picture. We were all hugging you. We were at the IAJE.
IAJE. Wow, that was 2000. In Long Beach. That's right. And that's the year that Steamers was voted the official club of the International Association of Jazz Educators. I completely forgot about that.
Oh.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was a hang.
Oh, was that a hang? Boy, those days were those crazy days.
I know.
I was thinking about Rebecca Paris the other day, Rebecca Paris was just...
Oh, yeah. Rebecca was, I don't know if you knew this, but Rebecca, and she was a year older than me. And when we were in junior high school, we were in the Greater Bostonians together. She was,
was great.
A professionally run group by two arranger and composers. And we had instrumental and vocals from all over Boston. And we made records every year, and it was really good. And her name was Ruth McCluskey.
I've not heard that name. I've heard that name. I forgot. So that's right. You're Boston. My dad's from Fall River.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I have the roots back there. Hold on. I saw something. Somebody asked me a question.
Sure.
It had to do with Tony Guerrero. So.
Oh, it said, how did you first meet Tony? And by the way, Kate Reed is here too.
Kate Reed. I love Kate. Kate is the greatest. Okay. How did I meet Tony Guerrero? I was at a smooth jazz concert going like this with a lighter. No, I'm only kidding. Tony and I go.
I'm trying to imagine that actually. It was difficult.
I just, you know what? I'll tell you the thing about jazz and about life in general is that it teaches you patience and tolerance and how to accept what necessarily isn't what your ball of wax right from the beginning. I was never a big fan of smooth jazz, and you realize when I opened Steamers, one of the things I wanted to do was make sure that we're doing straight ahead Latin and big band only. We're not doing smooth jazz. And because it just wasn't. I'm trying to remember what the guy's name was that had a place in South Coast by South Coast Plaza. It was up in It was up in a business building. Tony probably knows that. Yeah. But anyway, I don't remember how I met Tony, but it was very early on. Wait, Tim's reaching, but I don't remember what it was, but it was very early on. And Tony was one of those people like Ron Kobayashi, like Ernie Del Fonte, like the Banda brothers, Poncho Sanchez, some of the people that were very, very influential musicians that just helped me. Yeah. Mark Massey. There were people that played. Tom Rainier played my club and refused to take any money because we weren't busy. That night. there were people that helped me when it was the worst, when I was losing big time, that, they just wanted to play because of how they were presented there. And um, I lost track of what the question was.
It was just how did you meet Tony?
Oh, how I met Tony. And Tony
Yeah,
was one of these guys that was there with, so it could have been anyone.
yeah.
It could have been
Well,
anyone.
I remember him. I mean, he and I talked about this. I think he came to my jam session up in Studio
Yeah.
City, but I remember the long coat that he used to wear.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
He was really cute, man. He was, young. He was, playing trumpet. He was kind
And
of,
he had the curly and the
yeah.
John Lennon glasses. I mean, no, but Tony
Yeah.
is he's a true friend, man. He's an angel. He's an angel of a man. Um,
He's one of those guys for me, and I already told him this, so it's, he's like, I'm proud of him, and I feel like I'm kind of the age that I am and the age that he is, that I can say that. It's like
yeah,
Diane Reeves. I'm proud of Diane Reeves. She showed up here in LA when she was 21, and she was playing at the Comeback Inn with my
right.
brother-in-law, Joey Heredia, and Billy Childs and Tony Dumas. She was a baby. And I mean, a good baby, but still, as I saw her develop, and also, the what she was doing was so respectful,
Mhm.
that yeah, I'm proud of her.
And
And
look what she's done. Yeah,
yeah,
is she? You having her on here?
yeah, next week is
Oh,
it? I think
oh
it's
wow,
next
what a
week. Yeah,
talent! What a
yeah,
talent! Really.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, this is kind of scratching the surface of all sorts of emotions and feelings at this time, Cathy, because I haven't really, like you said, before we talked, by the way, to the audience, that Cathy and I said, I don't think we've ever sat down for 2 whole hours and talked like this. And, which brings me to the point of, today where, life in general, this COVID situation and the development of my maturity, I think has taught me about how valuable these things are in life, and how interaction with people, even if it's like this, spending time talking, getting to know people, and not the hustle bustle rush and all of it that takes place. Because some of there's an expression, and I talk about this in my recovery stuff, that you're that we're blinded by the one ugly tree, and we lose sight of the beauty of the forest. And this is I could sit there and harp about all of the terrible, awful moments that happened at steamers. I used to wake up, and it was a daily routine. I'd wake up, I'd go check my balance to see if my checks are going to make it. I'd call and make sure that the band remembered they're coming, and then people would show up late, and there'd be a guy with a $300 tab that was very cool, and there'd be a guy with a $3 coffee that's complaining. It's and as you get older, you realize life is short, and it's to be appreciated and loved, and that's what I'm trying to spread at this moment. A little bit of love.
Yeah, yeah. It's really nice. I mean, we were always friends, and I was working there, and and it was a good hang. But it is nice to, like, at this point, just really, hear what you have to say, hear about your life. I didn't know a lot about that early part of your life at all,
Yeah.
and and yeah, every moment. The reason I love these conversations too is because I'm actually getting to that with everybody, and it's in the moment. It's really in the moment. A lot of times the talk goes by, and a little bit of it remains with me, but a lot of it I'd have to go back and watch again, because they're moments, and everybody, it's inspiring. I think it's inspiring for everybody to hear, because everybody has a vision. Like, people who saw you, they didn't know all the
No,
backstories.
no. As a matter of fact, you know, I was talking about standing at the edge of the stage, looking out and wondering. There were people that would sit there and look at me standing there thinking, that mother effer is rolling in dough because they see 200 people in the place. They have no idea that what it costs. You know, it's all a matter of perception. And the truth of the matter is that I always cared more about the music there, and maybe I wasn't as good a businessman because I don't know what it was. I did my best. I put my greatest effort into it. I could have been a better this or a better that, but you know, I do know that the merit that I did was there were 9,000 concerts going on. 9,000 concerts have to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, it just has to be. You can't, you know, the percentages, the odds are in your favor. You know, they're in your favor, and you know there'll be people in the audience that are arguing or having a bad time or whatever.
Yeah.
For the most part, that's 1%. You know,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
rest of them are just loving life and saying, for a moment, for 2-3 hours, I can escape and hear some expression. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to the baked potato last night.
Oh wow.
My friend Dan and I go out a lot and see music, and
Is Don Randy still? That's his thing.
yeah,
Oh man.
and I think it's his son maybe who runs it, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it was, gosh, I'd have to go. Scott Kinsey
Mm.
and um, Gary Novak. He is a
Wow.
friggin' ridiculous drummer.
Yes, he is.
And yeah, I can't. My brain isn't working. But anyway, when they first started playing, it's definitely weather reportish. Like
Right.
I I just felt the room. They only had half capacity, but the room just you could feel everybody going, ah! And I was like, oh God, this feels great. And yeah, so it was really fun. And you know what? Not well, I won't go there. Anyway, it was great. It was really fun and very musical. It's just fun to go out and hear music again.
Well, yeah, and just that reminded me of where I kind of left off was about the Campus Jacksons that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Somehow we got sidetracked. Blame it on me because I probably did it. But, we're now live again at Campus Jacks tomorrow. Wait, no, is today Wednesday? Yeah, tomorrow
Today is
our
Wednesday, right?
Wednesday. Tomorrow is our third live concert, and basically what ended up happening was Tim, Jack, and Tim wanted to do it. Tim had this vision and is followed through, working tirelessly and relentlessly to help promote and get this thing going. And they've got this beautiful stage, lighting, sound, videographer, QSC, audio, and it's being streamed live. It's just on a level that I can't even imagine. And great food and all that stuff. So what ended up happening is I started doing that. COVID hit, and we started doing our live little thing here on Sundays. And then 2 weeks ago, we decided to open up, and we had Tony's band. Tony, well, it's not really his band, but his band with Gina Saputo and Bill Cantos on piano, and David Miller on bass, and Charles Ruggiero on drums. And then we also had Gina Saputo and Leah Booth. I mean, incredible vocalists. And it was just beautiful. And I had that same feeling you were talking about. All of a sudden, live music right there, live music. And the people were just overwhelmed. Plus the thing for me, what I felt was it was the first time I had actually socialized on a level with people rather than I had a mask on, but a mask and the grocery checker or
Yeah.
someone that's there. I walk up to a table, I stay a distance, and I say, hey, how you doing? And there was actual conversation. It was really, really uplifting. And so then last week we had Josh Nelson and Alex Frank and Ryan Shaw on drums with this
Tawanda.
incredible vocalist. I don't know if you
Yeah,
saw her,
Tawanda.
Tawanda.
Yeah,
Whoa, where
very
did she
lovely,
come from?
lovely girl, right? She's definitely on her way up.
She's
She's
on her way up, and she's 24. And then tomorrow we have Josh's real group, the one that he does with Graham Decker, who will be here in a couple weeks with him, with Dan Schnell on drums and the other Alex Bonham on bass, and then this girl
right? Yeah.
Jana on violin. So yeah, it's going to be and that's a new one for me. I've not heard her before, so I'm really excited about that. So I've got this whole energy about being excited to see new music and discover new music.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. I wanted to also just, I don't know, just to go back to some of our conversation, I wanted to talk about the IAJE in case people just didn't really know what that was. We were talking about hanging out there, and that was that lasted for almost 25 years, I think. And it was an educate based on jazz education. However, there were a lot of performances and seminars, and it ended up something like 9,000 members or something, and you could literally be walking down the hall and look to your right, like the person, this far away from you, and it was Herbie Hancock.
Right. Oh yeah.
Hey Herb, and hey, how you doing? And it lasted 4 days, and it was like a jazz party with your family. It was
Right.
great. But you know what I actually have discovered is the Jazz Congress, which is geared towards jazz reviewers and DJs, and that's in New York in January.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot less people. It's probably 2 or 3,000, but it's got that vibe. It's so much fun, and
Cool.
you see people, old people, new people. So that's been really fun. And
Now I know that IAG, I think that ended in 2007 or 8. I'm not sure when.
what, 7? Maybe, yeah, could have been
I think it had
7.
to do with the economic downturn. And then is Jazz Time still doing their thing? Or that
Jazz
ended?
Times. I think Jazz Times might have become Jazz Congress
Could,
in New York. But
yeah,
then, of course, there's JEN, which really IAJE became JEN,
right.
and Jazz Educators Network. And last year they were in New Orleans. I can't go to everything, because it's expensive,
Yeah. Well, and us jazz people have so much money.
I know. I took it out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the hangs are really great. I mean, you know, that's a big part of why we do it because it's a community. I had Dwight Tribble on. Speaking of
Oh,
guys
great.
who run places, he runs the World Stage,
Oh, yes.
super old
Oh,
club
my God.
hang.
Do you mind if I take a look at this? Someone was asking a couple. Am I interrupting you by doing that? I just got these things flashing.
That's totally fine. Usually people don't look, so it's great.
Oh, no, someone just, let's see.
Let's see. Mary Teresa asked if your father worked at Steamers with you.
Yes, yes. My father, God bless his soul. My father on every okay, Steamers we did for of the 22 years, 19 and a half years, we had big bands every Monday. And same thing on Sunday night, we had the jazz jam. I needed a day off. And big bands were usually the crowds that would come in for the big bands. We had 4 or 5 different big bands that would come in every Monday. And there were an older crowd. And my dad thought, well, I'll watch the door. So my dad used to watch the door, and he created innumerable fans there. And there's some people that had no idea. They would only come for that night, and then my dad would need off or something. They go, who are you? It was like, oh no, but my dad loved it. He loved it to death. It was great. Somebody else asked me something too. Yeah, and I trust me, I wish he was there still.
I don't see any other question.
Stu Goodis.
Yeah.
Hey, Stu. Wow. I haven't seen him forever.
Stu Goodis and Debbie Goodis.
Stu's an incredible guitar player.
He is. He's a beautiful guitar player.
God.
Yeah. Um, you said I had a list of questions. I really don't.
You know?
No, I sometimes I write down little, few words to remind myself of something,
Mhm.
but a lot of times these are just such casual hangs.
Right.
We can talk about anything. Let's play another cut from
Sure.
Steamer.
Sure.
I know
What do
you
you got?
said pretty much anything, right? I'll mention a few that I see here.
Okay, and then
Uh,
I'll. Oh, you know what I think would be nice? Are you going to my YouTube thing?
no, well, yeah, I am.
Go to my YouTube. I think would be a good one is, Carolyn Lenhart. Jay Lenhart, the bass player.
Yeah.
His daughter Carolyn, and I just love her. She was married to Wayne Escoffery, the sax player from New York. Um,
I'm
look
going to
her up.
type her name in.
L
Carolyn
L
Leo.
Leonhrt,
I see it. Yeah.
and then say Steamers, and I think exactly like
Yeah, there's Whisper Not. There's I'm in the Mood for Love. There's Nobody Else But Me.
Nobody Else But Me. That's a good one.
Okay, good. So I'm sharing my screen, ladies and gentlemen. And I can get rid of this one. And I'm picking this one. And,
That's with Gerald Clayton.
oh, God, young girl.
And Lutz, I think.
I wanna be no one.
He's the. Can they hear me or no?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm in
She's
love
the
with love. Life's
backup vocalist for Steely Dan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I have my faults. He likes my faults. I'm not very bright. He's not very bright. He thinks I'm grand. That's grand for me. He may be wrong, but if we get along, what do we care? Say when he holds me close, close as we can be. I tell the lad that I'm grateful and I'm glad that I'm nobody else but me.
Yeah, man.
That's some good stuff, huh?
Yeah. Tim Weston said, let's see, he said, her brother Michael is also a
With
talented cat, trumpet and arranger.
Yeah, he plays trumpet for Steely Dan too. Michael's fantastic. And then Jay, of course, on bass, her dad, the bass player.
Yeah.
No, and of course, look at all those cats: Gerald Clayton,
Yeah.
Kevin Canner, Dan Lutz.
Yeah.
Now, that was 14 or 16 years ago. Hard to believe. Incredible stuff.
It is hard to believe. Time goes by like
I
a
know.
mofo, man. Yeah. Oh, hey, Stephen Gutierrez.
Steve.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
man, we miss you.
Uh,
Now Steve's wife, Stephanie Haynes,
right.
one of my best friends, and she worked at Steamers a lot. She was,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
one of the all-time best jazz singers on the planet.
Yeah, and what a lovely soul. What a lovely soul. And speaking of lovely soul, Steve too,
Absolutely, and a great drummer.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was I going to tell you? I would be remiss if I did not thank Vicky Pedrini for, of course, introducing us and so many, Vicky, believe it or not, Vicky Pedrini taught me how to pay attention to lyrics.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because, I'm as a musician guy that knew, I always knew and enjoyed lyrics, but when it came to the jazz thing, I was always on the bass or the piano or the sax, and that was my thing. And I loved vocalists, but I did not get into the lyrical part of it. And I remember distinctly, I'm trying to remember when it was. It was probably very early on, 1998, 99 or whatever. And she was, we were really close and still are close. And I think it was Rebecca Paris playing at Steamers. And then I was just saying, God, I said something to the effect of like, Lush Life. She had done a thing of Lush Life, and I said, those are some weird ass lyrics, And she started explaining it to me, and then all of a sudden it was just like a light bulb went on. And then I realized that maybe as a singer and vocalist, all that, you probably, and someone that needs to express the emotion of a song, always, of course. Then it was like I noticed that all my favorite songs were tragic. They were tragic.
Yeah, but were you drawn to the lyrics or drawn to the music?
I was drawn to the
because the music generally for tragic songs is super heartfelt,
Well, of course it is, but the thing is, the music was always super heartfelt for me, but I never put the two together. Yeah. And somehow it was always different. And then all of a sudden I started finding myself those, that thing where you hear these very famous songs and somebody there's like what do you call it? When somebody says the word wrong, I forgot what it's called. Not a misnomer. It's malapropism.
Oh.
So a malapropism. So somebody's saying like, oh, they thought it's not my Sharona, it's my this or whatever. It's the wrong word. It was like that. All of a sudden I connected to whatever the heck was going on with that song. Yeah. I could sit there and hum along and I'd know maybe the first beginning of the verse or whatever, but I didn't really get into the whole story that was being portrayed. And then all of a sudden when I'd see vocalists perform, I was able to feel the emotion like I'd never done before. But it's an interesting instrument, being vocalist. It's
You have your job, just like the piano player has his job or the drummer has
Right.
his job. Actually, I had Shelley on, Shelley Berg, and boy, so the first thing I noticed was when he played a ballad, he was phrasing like a singer. Like
Yes.
I would have phrased like that, And when I brought it up, I didn't actually I've known Shelley a long time too, but I never fully knew that how deeply he was into the Great American Songbook, and
Yeah.
he knows all the lyrics. We were reciting lyrics together, and that's what he's doing. He's phrasing
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the lyrics, and it's beautiful.
Well, and it's really funny that you would say that because I may have caught a part of that when he was talking to you about it, when
Yeah,
I saw it when he was on there.
yeah.
But it's also strange because right when you were talking about Shelley, I was looking at a question from Mary Teresa was asking do I have a favorite jazz song?
Yeah.
And we're just talking about lyrics and vocals, but one of my favorite songs was not although there are plenty of vocal songs, was one done by Benny Golson, Along Came Betty, dun, 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 and Shelley Berg would come and play that for me because I'd requested from him. Along Came Betty, and then when he was on our show, on our Sunday show, he said, "So Terrence, I'm going to do a song that you always requested." And what the hell song was that? And I thought, Touch of Your Lips or whatever. I couldn't remember what it was. And he said, Along Came Betty. And yeah, God, there's just too many. And it's changed over time. There was a time when when it was Lush Life was my favorite song.
Yeah.
There was a time, every single song, when I hear somebody do it and I capture it and I capture the moment that the vocalist comes out with it and it hits me, that's it.
Yeah.
I mentioned Leah Booth earlier. I don't know if you know Leah very well.
Yeah. I don't know her, but I know of
her. Oh, she's fabulous.
Yeah, very good singer.
And she was with Tony Guerrero's big band at Campus Jacks. And the big band and her, they did La Vie en Rose. And
beautiful song.
It was like all of a sudden that was my favorite song. All of a sudden, like I've heard it a trillion times before. Yeah. But the way it was interpreted, and I don't know, it's an emotional thing, music to a person like us, completely different from anything else. So it's like my favorite food.
What is it today?
Today, fish. Tomorrow it's sauteed mushrooms. Who knows?
Last night before I went to sleep, I was listening to a really great record. It's Branford Marsalis Quartet. His latest one, Shadows and something, Between Shadows and I can't remember. Mm-hmm. Anyway, wow, that band has been playing together for 20 years.
Oh yeah.
And Joey Calderazzo and the other two guys, I don't know their names well, but they Greg something maybe, and anyway, wow, what beautiful compositions and the soloing. It's a truly great record. I think that's probably going to be one of my favorite records right now.
Imagine coming from that family.
Yeah.
And then the tragedy that happened this year. We had what's his name? I can't even think of it. Brecker on our show.
Oh no, not Michael's brother. What's his name? Randy.
Yeah, Randy was on. And I was doing the voiceover for his intro video, and I'm reading the bios, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, the history and that band and what they did, and yeah, it's just the thing about jazz is that so many great players never get the recognition. They're on the albums of these wonderful players, and you just don't even know it.
I know. Yeah, that's a really amazing thing. My husband has a big record collection,
Mhm.
and I collect some records from his collection, and I came across this record of a singer named Tony Harper. A long time ago, she was a young black woman. At the time, she was 22, and it was a full blown orchestra, and it was the songs were written by Hal Levy's songwriting class at UCLA.
Oh wow.
And he handpicked his favorite, and she was the singer. She, when she was 8, she was a dancer on big stages, and then at 10, she was on Ed Sullivan, and at
Wow.
12, she had some platinum hit. It was probably like a kid song, and then and then 22, she did this record. She sang with somebody big too. I can't quite remember who it was, and she retired when she was 29. But of course, on the record, it talks about Hal Levy's songs, and Freddie Green was the guy who was writing about it. But of course, no mention of the musicians.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we came up, that was very common. Unless once it got into pop, then it was a little different story. But
Well, what's really crazy was that Lou Soloff, the trumpeter,
yeah,
just recently died. I was a huge Blood, Sweat, and Tears fan back in the 70s.
yeah, me too.
I saw the name, I read it, but I did, it was David Clayton Thomas and all that. I didn't pay attention, to, even though I'm a sax player and a trumpet player, looking at Fred Lipsis and Lou Soloff, I didn't even, didn't do it. Then all of a sudden I became this Lou Soloff fan, 20 years later. And I'm thinking, man, that guy sounds, wait a second, you learn these things, it's crazy. It's just, I remember, Jeff, same thing with Jeff Hamilton on drums. I had no idea what he did, with the people that he did before, and everything with Woody Herman, Natalie Cole, and all that stuff,
We have. I mean, our community is hugely rich. I remember one time at the bar that I was curating, David Ross, who's a bass player, and he's been curating a jazz series at the LA Athletics Club for probably 6 or 7 years now. He was there, and we were doing some kind of special show. Oh, Mary Stallings actually was singing.
Oh, I love that.
And there was Nolan Shahid, and I can't remember exactly who was in the band. It might have been Mark Massey. Yeah. Anyway, so Dave did the funniest thing as he was announcing. He said, "Okay, who here has played with Duke Ellington?" So okay, who here has played with Count Basie? Just it was a great way to introduce people, actually, because everybody had. I think Roy McCurdy was on the gig too. Everybody, it was endless, of course, but it was a good way to introduce people.
Yeah, I saw Roy. He played at Campus Jacks with Jackie Ryan a couple months or right before the thing, like in February.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen Roy in years. But guy's like 84 years old.
He still looks great.
He looks like he could do 50 push-ups. Right?
I know. He was always eye candy. I remember Barbara Brighton and I remember one time we were looking at him play and we were like, and not to mention he's a great player. And I'll tell you something else, which he's going to be on July 5th.
Oh, perfect.
I'm going to tell him this too, but when I was going through a really rough time in my first marriage, I saw him at Chadney's, and we were talking. He was just always so kind, and anyway, he told me the story of his first marriage, or a little bit of it, when his wife wouldn't let him go out on the road with somebody big. It was before Cannonball, and he just never ever forgot it. And shortly after that, he decided he had to get a divorce because it was killing him, and that, just talking to him about that, it was great because I think what it did was it just put my mind into a space like, I have to do what I have to do.
Mhm.
And if my husband's not going to be supportive, fine, he can do what he wants, but I'm
Right.
going to do what I want, which
Yeah.
is why I ended up how I ended up. Hi, Doug Webb.
Doug Webb. Oh, I love Doug Webb. Hey, Doug. I'm surprised Doug doesn't have a picture of a saxophone up there. I never met a man that had more saxophones than Doug Webb, and that played it as well as him. I mean, he's
Doug
fantastic.
Webb, he's a maniac. I'm gonna invite him on the show too.
Oh, he's great. What a character too, man.
Oh God.
Yeah, he's fantastic. But you mentioned Chad. That's something that I have to include in the Steamer story. Chadney's is one of the reasons that I made Steamers the way it is because I went and I used to go see Earl Palmer's jam there and saw some great players. And I remember they had these these tall MPEG monitors that would be here all horizontally put on the top. It was just the worst piano, the worst sound system, the worst, just trashy place. And I said, I've got to be able to do it better than this. But look at the vibe they have here. And that was like, that's what I said to myself. And I remember Chadney's was, and it was awful. They ended up they got booted out of that place across from NBC.
So
and they moved up somewhere off the freeway, off the 101, and it didn't work out there. Yeah, boy.
I know that was a great vibe there. Really great vibe.
Incredible vibe.
Yeah.
It was a long drive for me, but I did it just because no one else was doing what they were doing at that time.
Yeah.
So let's see.
I actually have questions for me.
I love you, Anthony. Anthony Wilson, my buddy.
He was on here. We had a great conversation.
Anthony's the bomb. What a sweet man. What a great photographer. In addition to being
I know.
Fantastic guitar.
I know. Really beautiful. Do you have his book?
No, I do not have his book, but I should get it. I should support it. I'm a photographer too. And
I know.
And he's working only with film, which is a bigger investment than I'm willing to make. I just do it in a different way, but he is fabulous.
He's
talking about wonderful heritage. This man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and gosh, I don't know where to go first. Well, talking a little bit about Anthony. Anthony, the first time I heard Anthony, it was in his father's band, the Joe Wilson band, and I was like, who's that? Because he was really young. Yeah. And here's all these old guys and this young guitar player who played his ass off, and then I found out it was his son. And then we had done a few gigs together, and I just remember it was the perfect blend of groove, and I guess I always love singing with groove and harmonic adventures, and that's what Anthony does. And plus, he's a beautiful, beautiful soul.
Yeah.
Really, he's on one of my new records that I have that I'm working on finishing this year. You'll like this. I have to tell you about this. So I have two bands. And one band is Anthony, Josh Nelson, Edwin Livingston, and Lorca Hart.
Wow.
And then the other band is Will Brahm, Steve Haas, Alex Bonham, Nick Mancini, and Carrie Frank.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Pretty fun. And so we're doing, I picked a bunch of songs from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, And actually, this week, probably, I'm coming out with a single from that project because it's just so timely. It's Marvin Gaye's Inner City Blues, Makes Me Wanna Holler. But can I just interrupt your flow and say, because I have questions. What album did you love, Cathy? And do you have a favorite song, Cathy? Yeah. Coming up, I think one of my favorite albums was Miles Davis, 7 Steps to Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
I think I played that so many times that I had to get a new one. And also Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, which
Right.
was kind of an epic. It was an epic. And he never actually stopped a song, really, truly, like stopped a song, had space, and then started a new song. It was all ones, I mean there was a close down and then a come up of the next song, but
Mm-hmm.
and he was just so magical as a singer and a writer and basically producer. So that's mine. And favorite song, Mary Teresa. That is such a difficult question. There are many. I think people. I always say "Polka Dots and Moonbeams" was one of my favorite songs. But then there's so many beautiful little gems. There's a lull in my life. Do you know that one, Steamer. I was going to say Terrence. Teamer. Oh boy! Do you know?
It reminds me of people used to come. I'll not interrupt too long, but people would come to the door, and the thing about Steamers was, I'd always greet people at the door, and I bring them and I see them and all that, and people, and it was people wanted front seats, they always wanted, and so they would do everything, and people would come up to the door and say, I want to sit right up front. I'm great friends with the owner, Terrence. Or they'll say the wrong name.
Well, anyway, I was just saying, these little gems like There's a Lull in My Life. Yeah, Shelley and I were talking about those little gems. There was a song written by Julie Stein, who was the brother of Stein on Vine, Maury Stein. And he wrote this unbelievably short and stunning little song called Dance Only With Me. It was probably, I don't know, 8 or 16 bars, probably 16 bars, I guess. Very simple and extremely poignant, about basically this love, dance only with me, share your life and your love only with me. That was it. It was so beautiful. So there's a lot of really beautiful
Want to know mine?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I was thinking, see, whenever something like that comes up, there's so many I could say,
I know.
Probably, though, if I really were to think about it, you mentioned Polka Dots and Moonbeams, and I immediately went to Frank Sinatra's version of it. And then I thought of Nat King Cole, and probably one of my favorite Nat King Cole, who many other people did it, everyone from Julie London to, but You Stepped Out of a Dream. That is just, there's something about it that always, the lyrics,
It is a great song.
Oh, yeah, it's just a great song.
Yeah.
I do want to, though, if you don't mind me interrupting your flow for a second, I tell you a little bit about what is going on now with me and Campus Jacks and all that once I've done it. We started this thing when the COVID hit on Sunday nights, where we do a show. It started out as Steamers Jazz at Jack's doing a show, and we kind of actually turned it into a variety show because my cohorts there, Tim Ellis and John VA and John Wynn and the people that are working in the background, we're not using Zoom, we're using this thing called Switcher, where Tim is the actual control man, and we have these 3 screens, and we have the ability to throw in high quality videos and audio and pictures and all that. And Tony Guerrero and all, we are putting these clips together of backbeat of what's going on with the artists. You saw kind of what we did with you last week. And we've had all sorts of people, Arturo Sandoval, we had Cheryl Benteen, we had just a numerous, Anthony Wilson was just on there. We've had all these people, each in like 3 or 4 each weekend that we're doing. And, so, and all we do is we put this about an hour and a half, 2-hour show on. The same thing. We mix the videos with the live interviews that we have. And Karen Allison was there, and like, we'll do a song or two, and then we'll talk and find out. And like what you're doing here is that people not that I'm important or anything like that, but people really are attracted and like to find out like the backstory about what's going on with the scene. You know, they go to the show and they see the person play and they hear the song and they maybe like that favorite song, and maybe they don't want to bother the artist by saying, can I buy a CD, or will you sign it, or talk to them? And because, you know, you're on stage and you got people that like you, but no one wants to take that away from you. You know, take your time away in between sets or whatever. So, although some people try and do it, but you know what I mean? But to get that intimate thing like what you're doing here, I mean, 2 hours is enough of Terrence love probably for anybody, but you know, just to get an interview to find out really what's going on with these people is just a very revealing and refreshing thing for a lot of people out there. So we've been continuing to do this, even though now we've opened up the doors and are putting on these shows back at Campus Jacks on Thursdays. So, you know, we hope you guys can continue to support that. It's at, you know, Facebook Campus Jacks or Steamers Jazz. You can do it. You can go to steamersjacks.com. And also we're doing that stuff on Thursday night. So I have to put that little plug in too, because that's what I'm doing. And that's what Steamers Jazz is all about today, is that I'm still involved in jazz, and I'm still doing it on a different level. And as much as I'd like to say that it's easy because I don't have to worry about paying the bills and all that stuff, I'm involved. So it's important for me to still, you know, I never did anything half-assed there, and I'm not going to do it here, you know, and I want to support the community. And I know, and I'm not, although I play instruments and stuff, I'm not a professional musician like you or some of these other wonderful people. I do know that you want to feel that audience. You know, when you're out there, you're not expressing that self just so you can hear it back on a recording. You want to see how emotionally people react to what you produce and express. And so it's an important thing. It's important for people to support you in this thing. It's important for people to support Campus Jacks and the Baked Potato or whoever else is opening up. You know, we're all in this together. We're not that big of a community.
Yeah.
You know, there's my shameless plug.
Now I'm going to say something. I actually think we're a large community. I really do. And, you know, I mean, maybe, you know, in certain areas where we seem to be small and certain examples, but I really feel like, you know, the jazz community, you know, is large. It's kind of, you know, reminds me of the news, you know. We hear a lot of bad news, but really there's a lot more good news, but we just don't hear about it because it doesn't sell newspapers and stuff, you know. Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, Karen McCann said Catalina's Jazz Club has a GoFundMe going on right now. Wow. I'm going to promote that.
Yeah.
Catalina's, yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what the Blue Whale is going through. I don't know how these clubs are really holding on. I mean, Baked Potato, at least I'm pretty sure owns that building because they've had that for so long. But places like Catalina's, which Catalina has been running that club for
30 years.
Is it 30 years?
It's 30 years.
Yeah.
And you know,
30 years, yeah.
Maybe 31 or 32. And Catalina is great, you know, and they used to be on where the old Shelley's Manhole was, and then they moved up to the new place, which is bigger and all that. And I can only imagine. I don't think they own the building. They may.
No.
I can imagine that, you know, a place like that size has to depend on revenue from food and drinks and all that stuff too. And it's a bitch. I mean, I'm sad about any of this going on here. In the same sense, I'm also grateful that there's no way Steamers would have survived this if I was involved at the time that this was going, Steamers was still alive today. So it is really important that people go out and do it. And it's really important that for the musicians too, because if the clubs don't work, the musicians don't work. It's just, this forum, like what we're doing now, and these live little concerts are nice and all that stuff. And people have adjusted how to teach and to record together and all that stuff here. But ultimately, it'll be the demise if people don't support them. And I don't want to get too political or anything like that about that. All I know is that one thing I can do on my part is to support it to the best of my ability.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm gonna see. I'm going to go and I'm going to share this if there is. You said, let's see, I'm going to share the screen. And you said there's Manny and Catalina. And let's see, what do they have to say? So
34 years.
34 years. And this says, Save Catalina. They need $100,000.
Wow.
They need 12. They raised 12,000 from June 4th, and let's see. Yeah, man, I'm gonna donate. And oh boy, yeah, we've showcased the incredible talents of Broadway, soul, Latin, jazz, R&B, or stand-up comedy. Connecting with you. Our doors have been closed since March 14th.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're trying to pay their staff, tech crew, chefs, and yep. So the rent of I can just only imagine what.
No, it's a double space too. It's a large room, and she's been doing this for so long, and Manny's right there too. It's just unbelievable. It's really awful. It's just really awful.
Let's see what do they actually have a music thing? I guess so.
Hi, I'm Catalina.
And I am Manny.
And we are the duo that run the Catalina Bar and Grill, also known as Catalina Jazz Club. We seat a little over 200 people. We have a great menu, full bar. We have a wonderful wine list, and most and foremost, we have the greatest jazz on earth.
Latin jazz, Afro-Cuban, Broadway, whatever the genre might be.
Even the comedy.
Even comedy once in a while. That's what keeps
We were here since 1986, and Manny, what a time we had all these 34 years. The founders of the club were myself and my husband, Bob Popescu. He said, let's call it Catalinas, and then people will relate to your name and to the island's name. When the pandemic started, I didn't know how long or how much it's going to be. And then was like everything closed. And the most painful part was when one day I came to the club, those walls were crying for the music, and nobody could come. And here we are, 3 months later, and still we can do it.
My first week, I had never worked at a jazz club before. That week, we had Dizzy Gillespie scheduled. Phones would not stop ringing. The lines outside to get in were going all the way around the block. I was wondering, what the hell did I get myself into?
The greatest moments we have had in this club is when the music is on.
I have known Catalina for 40 years. Many people assume that we are husband and wife.
Oh, and we
are not. However, we do love each other dearly.
Sometimes I want to kill him.
Just like a husband.
What we love the most is dealing with musicians, dealing with people, and dealing with our staff. As we know, we have our staff for many, many years, which is actually my family. A lot of the guys that work here, been working here since they were very, very young. Now they have children of their own. They've gone to colleges. I have my chef. He has 4 kids. I went to the kids' baptizing. One of his girls have his quinceañera here.
And it was sad to have to notify they would be staying home. They wouldn't have an income.
We didn't have any funds coming in. So it's been about 3 months now that we could not pay the rent. We have to pay all the utilities. We have to pay insurances. We come to you to ask for help just so we can stay open, so we can welcome you again to our place. We hope to be open in July, but we don't know. So please help us in these horrible moments. We never ask for anybody's help. Look into your heart and see how we can get a little help from you. Doesn't matter how much. Whatever you can will be greatly appreciated.
You can do this through GoFundMe.com or go to CatalinaJasca.com. We are looking forward to opening again as soon as they allow us to.
We thank you if you can chip in a little, whatever will take, just so we can move on, bringing you the greatest of the greatest of the music.
Oh. Wow. Wow, that was some gorgeous flute. I'm doing it. I'm gonna do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If anybody who's listening, it's a great idea to donate to them. They've just been so giving over the years, right? Yeah. Just totally giving and wonderful. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting thing to, sobering moment there to think about that.
Yeah.
Totally. and she has been on the forefront of this the whole time that I've been aware of. It's just really awful.
Yeah.
Let me see if
Catalina's. I mean, I remember both. All Catalinas, and I remember one night especially. Well, I saw Carmen McRae there a bunch. I saw. What's his name? The piano player who's the actor, the Fly guy, Jeff Goldblum. He used to play there a lot. And then one night was particularly mind-blowing for me. I saw Kenny Kirkland, Dave Carpenter, and Jeff Tain Watts. And at first, I was sitting at the bar and I was noticing Jeff Tain Watts, and I was really uncomfortable because he was really on the front of the beat.
Oh, yeah.
And then I noticed Kenny Kirkland, and he was on the back of the beat. and Dave Carpenter was right in the middle. And then I felt like my head opened up. It went like this.
Interesting.
I'll never forget that. That was like one of the highlight moments of my life,
It's funny that you would say that, because I was thinking before this interview that you may ask me about my reaction to certain players and stuff. And I'll never forget, I'm a sax player, right? And I don't know if you're familiar with Teddy Edwards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, great player. But he always, just like Jackie McLean, is a tad sharp, tad flat. And Jackie is always a tad sharp. And Teddy Edwards is always a little bit flat. And he played the club with Saskia LaRue once. And I remember, because I just loved him so much, but it was like, as a guy with, pretty close, relative, perfect pitch, it was something that just, I kind of always just like, I go, hold that mouthpiece in a little bit, and he played at Steamers, and he got up on stage and he started playing, and it was perfect. And I said, and I remember talking to somebody, another sax player that was with me at the time. This just shows you don't talk shit about people. And then I was going, yeah, man, I love him, but it seems like he's always a little flat. What's the deal? And so he's playing perfect. I said, I can't believe it. And then after that song, he pulls the mouthpiece out because he realized, to him, he was sharp. So to him, he was sharp. So he hears it different than I hear it.
Yeah.
He hears it different than I do.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Nobody's got a sine wave A440 in there at the time. He hears it differently than and it was just like the strangest awakening. And I'm thinking, I'm focusing on that, and that is, I'm back to the bit about the ugliness of the forest, the tree.
It's hard to ignore that, though. I've had that experience twice. Listening to Carmen McRae as I was growing up, I wasn't a fan of hers because to me she was flat. But later on in life, I didn't hear her being flat. I don't know if she changed it, and I was so overwhelmed with how great a phraser she was. Then one time at McCabe's, I saw Betty Carter, and she was. It almost seemed like she was flat purposefully the whole show. She was, I mean, really flat, not just like, there on the note, but like, maybe there, there on the note,
almost
like
quarter tone.
oh, ooh, that was, kind of crawls up your back.
It's like some people don't like to hear scratching on a wall. It's all a part of what it is. But the fun times I've had at Steamers, and the most wonderful time. And you played, when we started this show out, you played Joey DeFrancesco with Arturo Sandoval and Joe Pesci. Now, he went by Joe Dogs because, here's a very famous movie star, and he doesn't want to be known as, he doesn't want people coming to see the show because he's Joe Pesci, so he calls himself Joe Dogs. And I'll never forget the first time, this is 1999, that he came into the club, or 98, and I had beer and wine at the time. Didn't have liquor until 1999, and I remember he comes in and he's very cool. We're hanging out in the green room, my office, and and he says, "Oh," I said, "Can I get you something to drink?" He goes, "Yeah, Absolute on the rocks or whatever, vodka." I walk out there and I go to the store, buy a bottle of Absolute. It's Joe Pesci, man. He's gonna have me whacked. No, and it was at that moment I realized I have to have full liquor here.
Yeah, that must have been getting a liquor license is expensive, right? And
well, yeah, but what happened was I got it in the lottery. They can go up to $70,000, $80,000, or you can wait for the lottery, which happens in September, and it's $13,000, just a flat rate.
Wow.
And what happened was I went for the lottery on that year. I missed it by one person. Well, they picked 25 and I was number 26.
Yeah.
And 2 months later, number 25 dropped out because they didn't have a true location. They just put their name in. They didn't actually have a location. So I got it.
Oh my God.
It was,
wow.
See, that's one of those things I should think, hey, I was blessed at that moment. But
well, that just goes to show you, my feeling is, you keep moving ahead. You operate as well as you can, and you move ahead. And no matter what, you move ahead, and then shit happens. Your life unfolds the way it unfolds, and you make it. You kind of steer it. It's kind of like making a mistake when you're playing. Do you just sit there in the mistake? No, you fix it and move forward. You
passing
keep
tone.
going. Yeah, right. Passing tone, the famous.
You see that picture? I don't know if you can see that up there. You know who that is?
No.
Chuck Niles.
Oh.
Another guy that I don't know if Steamers would have made it without his support. KLON, before K-Jazz, Helen Borgers, and I used to go on there every year and DJ with them. Helen, Chuck, and I during their fundraisers, which was another thing to keep jazz. So see, the whole time I've known jazz in the business sense, we've all been begging for money anyways. So, that's what it's all about. But Chuck was very, 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 very supportive of Steamers. And I was blessed to have him there many, many, many times before he passed. And
he was the coolest, man. He was
the best, man. There's nobody like him. Nobody like him.
Yeah.
We did 2 hours.
I know, man. I want to thank you for
Oh,
hanging with me. It's been really, really fun. I love you.
I love you too, Kathy. Wow, this is great, and it's going to play back too, huh?
Yeah, you can see it on my site, and also I have archives, and the archive link is on my Facebook page and also on my website. And I just found out last week that if you go to Dropbox and watch it there, you only see the first hour. If you want to see the whole 2 hours, you have to download it,
Hmm.
and then you can delete it afterwards. You know,
Cool.
you don't have to have it on your computer forever.
Like I say, when I wake up in the morning, I look at myself in the mirror. That may be enough for me, but I'd like to hear some of your interesting stories.
Yeah, so I like to thank everybody for listening, and Vicky Pedrini ended up getting on.
Oh,
But
she did. Is she
yeah,
there?
well, I don't know if you see her name there, but she sent me a message that she was
Yeah,
listening.
I love Vicky. You know, Vicky was probably one of my greatest supporters at Steamers over the all year. And Vicky never, and to this day is never, and she continues to support at Campus Jack. Has never walked in the door without either olives, figs, grapes, cheese, some bruschetta or some kind of something for always a treat, a homemade treat. I've received cards from her every year, never a Hallmark, always handmade, hand, with everything from, sparkles to whatever the heck she does. I mean, she's a crafter.
I
And
know she and I have done that too.
oh,
Love her
that's
dearly.
that's
She's so sweet. She's a great person. Her whole family's great. Of course, they had the Pedrini Music Store, which also was a location.
63 years.
Yeah, that was where I started actually doing workshops.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. And and she and I were roommates at IAJE.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah, she brought her coffee maker. It was great. And
Prepared.
we
That's
had a
awesome.
joke. We took care of Dave Mackay, who's blind, and
Yeah.
so ever since then we were like, "Do you have Dave?"
Mm. Yeah, so good.
Thanks for coming, everybody. And the next day that I will be on, I'm taking June 19th off too, just in respect for Juneteenth, which
Mhm.
I just kind of came up in very obvious ways
Mhm.
this week, and I just felt like doing that. So the 20th, I'll just tell you the two people for the end of the week is H.B. Barnum.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, H.B. Barnum, I don't know if a lot of people know who he is, but he was a child actor. He was a doo-wop singer. He is a big producer. Like he's produced Aretha Franklin and a whole
Mhm.
bunch of people, and he's a real sweetheart. So I'm looking forward to talking to him. And then Sunday, Sally Stevens, who's like the mama of studio singing, and she
Oh,
has been
cool.
around forever. She's
I don't think I
led,
know her, but
oh yeah, she's like led choirs, and she's probably contracted every old movie that we ever saw, with singing on it.
mhm.
So that's going to be really interesting. And then next week, Diane Reeves and several other people. Yep, and I like to say hi, Barry Zweig, watching
Oh,
from
Barry.
heaven, and uh,
Barry's another was oh, I love Barry.
yeah,
Yeah, that was another tragedy of 2020.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I wrote a song for him. I'll share it with you.
please do.
So thanks everybody so much, and for coming. It's been really nice, and let's support Catalina.
Yeah,
You can give
absolutely.
$5. It's cool. $200, whatever, and let's just do it. Let's go for it.
Support Catalina, support your local jazz club, support your artists if they've got something on there. You got, nowadays everything on the internet can be free. It's time to fork out if you can.
Yeah, and go see
CampusJacks.com, Steamers,
campusjacks.com.
Cathy Segal-Garcia, and the rest.
I love you.
I love you too.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.